welcome to Avoid TV. Thank you for stopping by my channel today to watch my videos. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button so that whenever I drop new video, you'll be here to watch it. If you have been coming to my channel and have never subscribed, please subscribe so that you will not miss any of my new videos. Today I'm going to talk about some of the sample questions that have been asked at DV Lottery interview. Many of you guys have been asking me about, do you have questions that, people get asked at DV Lottery interviews. So I've gone around and then come up with some of these questions, and now I'm going to talk about some of them. But don't expect these exact questions, but these are some of the typical questions that get asked at the DV Lottery interview. And so I have some of the questions, and some of these questions may have been mentioned in my previous videos. So don't be annoyed when you hear some of the same questions again, because like I said, these are some of the typical questions that they ask you. All right. So I'm not gonna go into your biographic information like your name, your date of birth, where you were born. Those are things that you already know. I don't need to give you those questions. All right. And one question that I want to clarify within your biographic information, when they say where were you born or your hometown, whatever is on your birth certificate, whatever is there. I know that certain tribes in Africa, especially Ghana, people will claim they're from their father's side, so they claim maybe their father's hometown, even though they were born in maybe another region altogether. Because for some tribes, where you come from may not be the same as where you were born. But please, for immigration purposes, where you were born is the city that it's on your birth certificate. All right, that is where you were born. It has nothing to do with your lineage or whatever. So that is that. So I'm going to go through some of the questions that will be typically asked. So they will ask you the minimum requirements. So we're going through that. So you're Ghanaian, then you have a passport. If you're Nigerian, you have your Nigerian passport. Whatever your country is, you submit your passport. And that is a proof that you are a national of that country that issue you that passport. If you are not from that country, but then you're basing your eligibility based on your spouse, then you have to also clarify that. If you're basing that eligibility on your wife, then your wife should also be at the interview. If you're basing the eligibility on your husband's home country, then that person has to be at the interview. You cannot be basing your eligibility on somebody who is not coming with you. The person has to also be on the application and coming with you. All right. So they will ask you where did you go to high school, or do you meet the minimum requirement? So you mention the name of your high school and you give them all that jazz. They ask you, so when did you finish high school? You can tell them when you finish high school. They ask you, so after high school, did you continue? Where did you go to? If they look on your application, they see that you said you went to nursing training, or you went to a teacher training, or you went to the university, they are going to ask you those specific questions. So where did you attend your first your university? All right, where do you attend university? You tell them university. Where do you attend your nursing training? So why did you go to school in that place instead of your region? Those are just follow-up questions that may not be a big deal, but you could be asked, and then you tell them, hey, that was the best school. This is the program that I did, and all that. They ask you, what do you do now? Oh, I'm doing my national service, or I'm working for this company. I'm doing so. This is what I do. I'm a graphic artist. I'm a teacher. I'm a nurse at this hospital. Because most people, when you say what you do, the next logical question is to add where you work at. So it'd be like, I'm a nurse at this teaching hospital. I'm a doctor at this hospital. I'm a student at this university. Those kind of things. You tell them that, and then they're going to go through your form DS-260, the stuff that you put on that form. So what did you put there? When they ask you that, where do you work at? You put that information. You put out your supervisor's information. So they will ask you, who's your supervisor? Do you have his phone number? and then you give it to them. If you have it, you give it to them. But that's why if you watch my last video, I said that you come with a CV so that this information will be like like you have it ready. Okay. And then they will ask you if you're not employed. They will ask you, so what do you do at the moment? A little advice that I'll give you is that if you're not employed, if you have to be doing something with your life. Remember, the main purpose of this visa program is to improve the diversity of America, but also to bring people who contribute to the American economy. All right, so they don't want somebody who is lazy, who is coming here to become like a burden on the government, or somebody who is coming here to be excuse me to say, a bum, like to sit here and not work and then be collecting government assistance and all that. So you need to prove that you're a useful person, so that when you come here, you'll be useful to the American country or the American society. Okay, so if you're not working and then you have been doing some volunteer stuff, anything that you're doing productively to better yourself, to better your community, whether it's volunteer stuff, please talk about them. If they ask you what you do, if you're not employed, then make sure that you don't leave that out. You don't create the impression that you are unemployed and you're sitting there waiting for somebody to give you a job and you're not doing anything. You're just eating and sleeping and so stuff like that. So they ask you what you do. If you talk about what you do, they will ask you, so what is a typical day like at your job? Then you need to tell them. So typical day of that kind of question, you talk about, when I go to work in the morning, I check my emails. I go around to check on my customers. I call customers. I do sales calls. I do this and that. You have to tell them. It's like, treat it like you're telling somebody who knows nothing about your job. So you tell them what you do. Okay? And they ask you about, like, what do you do? Tell me about your job. Then that is what when they say tell me about your job, they want to know what you do, the steps, the specific task that you perform when you go to your job. And the same answers can be for when they ask you what is the typical day at your job. So the only slight difference in this answer is like, so what do you do? What do you do at your job? And what is a typical day at your job? The slight difference is that the typical day, you don't talk about the random, like the big events, the rare events that happen. No, they're talking about like every normal day when you go to work. This is what I expect to do every day. But then sometimes there's like this unusual event that happen. That is not what they're talking about. They're talking about like your normal day routine. If you are basing your qualifications on your job experience, then they're going to ask you, so what kind of software do you use to do editing? Let's say you said you're a video editor. What software do you use to do editing? And then you talk about, I use maybe Adobe Premiere Pro, I use After Effects, or those kind of software that are available in the industry. For anybody who is doing video editing needs to know some stuff like it. Anybody who is doing graphic design needs to know certain software that is common in the industry. So if you're using your skills and stuff like that, you may be asked, how do you do that? So how do you split an image? How do you combine? So just be prepared for specific questions that may be for your industry. For that, I cannot give you a specific questions, but I'm just giving you the type of stuff that they could ask you. So they could ask you, how do you do stuff? Look at it as like a job interview. They can ask you very technical questions about your job, and please be ready to give those answers. All right. Like I said, years ago, there was a lady that my mom and we had gone for an interview, and they asked her what she does. And she said she's a fashion designer. I'm not sure if that was her minimum requirement, but I think that she should be using high school. But I think she mentioned that she's a fashion designer alongside meeting the high school requirement, because if you're a fashion designer, you don't meet the work experience requirement. If you didn't finish high school, you cannot just use fashion design. So when she says she's a fashion designer, they ask her, how do you do French, some kind of, is it French threading or something about French something, but it has to do with like sewing. When you take your fabric, you like, I don't know whether it's the loop one, please, I don't know much about sewing, but the lady was trying to do that, and she had to demonstrate with her hand how you do that thing. Okay, so you finishing high school, you meet the minimum requirement, but remember, it's not the minimum requirement means that you qualify, but it doesn't mean that you get the visa. All right, so if whatever you've been doing after school, anything that you've been doing productively with your time, it's very important that if you get the opportunity, if you are asked any question along that side, don't minimize the things that you've been doing to improve yourself, to upgrade yourself. You know, if you're unemployed and you are doing, you've been taking some online courses to help yourself, you can talk about that too. When they ask you, like, what do? You can say, I'm unemployed, but in the meantime, I've been taking courses in this in hopes that I can use that to get jobs in fields like this and stuff like that. Don't just say, since I finished school like 5 years ago, you've been sitting there and you are not you are unemployed for 5 years and you're not doing anything. How could you convince somebody that you haven't worked for 5 years, but then when you come to America, all of a sudden you will work? So you want to show that you have been, improving yourself. So that is the part there. The next thing is, if you are, obviously they're going to ask you, what do you plan to do in America when you come? And of course, to find a job, to, upgrade yourself, go to school, get some certificates, stuff, that kind of stuff. The other questions that they can ask you, if you are a married applicant, so remember, I'm putting all of this together. If you're a married applicant, they will ask you, how did you guys meet? So you and your spouse, how did you meet? Now, that could be a long story, or you can cut it short. But I would say that you keep it short and simple. How did you meet? We met in the university. She was a year ahead of me, and I was here. We met in the university. We were linked. We met at a party, and then there, simple. We met at a party, and we got introduced, or we were introduced by our friend or our family, our mothers, because they attended the same church, and that's how we were introduced, and that's how we got together and we started dating. How did you meet? That is how we were introduced by a friend, or we met online. We met in an online chat group. We met together, realized that we went to the same church, or realized that we live in the same neighborhood, stuff like that, and then we started dating, and then we got married. I know, you should keep it simple, but make sure that the important facts that need to be told are told, all right? And then if you have children, and then your wife, they will ask you, or your husband, they will ask you, what does your wife do? And most of the time when they're asking you this question, they will let the other person sit down. Okay? So it's not like your spouse is standing right there and your spouse is going to chip in and no. So most of the time, they will either let the spouses sit down and they ask you the question, and then you answer, and then your spouse, they call your spouse to see if your questions or your answers match up. All right? And then they will do that. But if they don't they let both of you stand there, just make sure that you are communicating effectively. When you're married, what you're trying to show is that this marriage is genuine. All right? Because most of the time, when you get some people went lottery and then they quickly get married. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to know that such types of marriages are more scrutinized than others. But at the end of the day, if you can prove that your marriage is genuine, then you will get through. There are people who were married, who have been around a long time, but will still not be able to convince their case. And then there are people who had quick marriages and they're able to convince with their case. So what I would say to you is that if you're in love with this person, this is not a place for you to be shy. Be shy and be conservative. You are with your spouse. So you want to communicate that to your consular officer when they ask you questions with regards to your marriage, so that they know that it's genuine. Okay? Remember, they go through so many people who come there to lie to them. So you want to make sure that your genuine relationship is not mistaken for a fraudulent one. All right? They will ask you if you have pictures. They will ask you, do you have pictures of the two of you together? Remember, they already ask you for your social media handles and stuff. So sometimes they already look at, most times they already even look at your Facebook profile. They check you out. They look at yourself before you even came to the interview. So they could be asking you specific things that they saw on your social media account. So they will ask you, so when did you guys have your wedding? Whilst they are asking you this question, they may already have seen what you shared on social media. They'll ask you, so who is this person? And then they mention him. Don't be surprised, okay? Know that they are not calling out things that they don't know. They are calling out things that they found about you, or things that within the application you have said about yourself. So they are not going to mention somebody's name out of the blue, just to trick you. No, they are asking you things that they feel are connected to you, and they are asking you about it. All right? The other thing is that know that they send people out to go and check to see if the marriages are legit or they're fake. So they can ask you more questions with regards to that. If they know that your marriage is fake, then you're not gonna get your visa, because for them, if they feel that you've lied to them in one part, how could they believe you, the same person, in another portion? All right. The other question that they could ask you is that, do you have children? And then you give them the answer, whatever the answer is. Remember that if they ask you for your children, if you have children that are your stepchildren, you have to make that declaration. Okay, if they have you, how many children do you have? Let's say you have 3 children, but one of them is your stepchild. You say that I have 2 biological children, and then 1 is my stepchild. You say that in there. Don't say yes, I have children. I have 3, and then you move on, because most of the time you are leaving the assumption that all the 3 children are your biological children. So if there's any differentiation, please make that clear so that there's no misinterpretation of your answers. Right? There's no misinterpretation of you saying yes, it being interpreted as, oh, yes means that they are my biological children. Meanwhile, that wasn't what you were trying to say. So always ask for clarification when needed, okay? If you are not sure about the question, please, you ask them, please, can you clarify the question? Or are you asking about this, or are you asking about that? If you're not sure, you ask them. And you are always free to communicate in your local language. You can always ask. That will not be used against you. That somebody, because I remember somebody was talking about, you cannot speak your local language because you said you finished high school, so you should be able to speak English. No, that is not true. You can speak in a language that you're comfortable in. If you want them to bring an interpreter for you, yes. It doesn't mean that you cannot function when you come to America. No, it's better to speak in a language that you're comfortable in than to misinterpret things, and because you didn't understand, you gave the wrong answer. Okay, so feel free to use an interpreter if that is what is best for you. All right. The next thing will be, they can ask you, where do your children go to school at? Be ready with an answer. You should be able to tell them where your children go to school at. Do your children live with you? You should be able to give that answer. If on the application you're intending for your children to not come with you, but to stay behind, you should be ready with the name of the person that you intend for your children to stay with. Okay, so when they ask you, well, it looks like you're not going with your children, so who is going to take care of the children whilst you go to America? Oh, my mother-in-law, my mom, who is a retired teacher, staying at home, so she'll be happy to take care of my children. And we've already talked about this, and she said she would take care of my children whilst I'm gone, and when the children are of a little older, then I can bring them to join me in the United States, something like that. But don't go there and be caught off guard and then say that, and when they ask you the question, you're standing there like, you don't know what you say. The same also goes for your spouse. If your spouse is not coming with you, and they ask you, why is your spouse not coming with you, you should have an answer. Oh, my wife, we have maybe some projects going on. Or my husband, he works for this company and he just got a promotion, and he wanted to work a little bit under his new title for a bit to see to gain some experience, and then he will join me later along the line. I wanted to be the first one to go to settle down, and when I've settled down and everything, I'm settled in, then the rest of my family can join me, whether my husband or my wife and the children can join me. We didn't all want to move in, and then all of us have to adjust to a new place. So we wanted for me to come in first and then settle in and then bring my family to join me, like that kind of things. Like my wife just delivered, so the new baby, we didn't want to move my wife, new mom with a new baby, into a new environment for her to struggle. So the plan is for me to go first and settle down, and then when things are in, by that time the child will be a little bit older, so that my wife can come in with a child. Like that kind of explanation can help. Or my children are in school and we don't want to take them out of school when they are at this level. We want to wait for a couple of years when they are a little bit older, so that they can join me. And that's the reason why my wife is also staying behind with them, so that she can take care of the kids to this level, so that they can all join me later. Like, have an explanation why your family is not joining you. The other question that they can ask you will be, have you bought your plane ticket? They always advise against you buying your plane ticket. Please, I hope it's no to have your visa in your hand. So don't buy your plane ticket. And I hope when they ask you, the answer will also be a no, because if you're, are reckless and you're buying your plane ticket already, you're selling your property, know that you doing that will not convince that, hey, you're anxious, you're excited to go to America. No, it will only portray you as a reckless human being. All right? So don't do those kind of things. Wait until you have your passport with this visa back in your hand. You can do any of those things. You can buy your plane ticket. You can, you have enough time to quit your job, like all that kind of stuff. All right. So these are most of the typical questions that they ask. The other thing was the children. I remember somebody mentioned that they asked him, when did your wife go into labor? Just to check to see if their story matches up, right? Because somebody who is your wife, you would know when she went into labor, as opposed to somebody that's randomly, somebody that you randomly was paired with. All right. So yeah, these are the typical questions that you get asked at the DV Lottery visa interview. I will share these questions in the group Green Card Lottery Africa and Green Card Lottery Ghana. Make it available in Green Card Lottery-USA in brackets Zambia. Please join any of these groups. You can join all of the groups together, because the more groups that you're in, the better it is, so that you can get variety of information, so that you can put it together and pick whatever works for you. You can follow me on Facebook on Wofoi TV. That is the only official Facebook page. Most of my videos that I make on YouTube, I share them on that. So you can ask me any question that you have about immigration, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Comment here, share, please subscribe, because when you subscribe, it encourages me to make more videos. It gives me more privileges on YouTube to make live videos. I really appreciate all the love and support that you guys have given me so far. I'm hoping to quickly to get to my 1,000 subscribers in a couple of months. So guys, please, I need your help. I need your help. I need you to help push my content out there. And throughout the year, I'll be making more videos about the DV lottery process. Those who applied for last year, May will be the time for you to check your May 8th will be the day for you to check whether you were selected or not. But then I'll also go through the process of preparing people who have to submit their entry for the 2023 DV lottery application, which we'll be doing this year in October. All right, so follow my channel for great content, great stuff. I'm trying to educate people on how to take advantage of these immigration processes that are out there. I love you guys, and I'll see you on my next video.